Why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit in order to be comfortable?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's Hi, your reluctant gringo on a Sunday night, nonetheless, because I don't usually do Sunday nights, but today's special because apparently LA's on fire again. And, you know, that, I guess that happens every few years. And I guess I'm coming to you, I don't know, it depends on what side you're on. It depends on how you look at this thing politically. I guess I could be either an insurgent into enemy territory or I'm here supporting the enemy in enemy territory. So, yes, I am live south of the border. I am coming to you from Mexico. Now, I thought it was going to be a fun weekend, a nice weekend. It was a fun weekend. I've had a great weekend. I went away for a few days. I said, you know what, there's going to be this toy market that happens every weekend in Mexico City. We're going to go, me and my wife, we're going to hang out in Mexico City for a couple of days, have a blast, have some good food, all that. I'm going to see some vintage toys. I'm going to get some footage, some content. I'm going to post it. You know, it's going to be a great time. And all of a sudden what happens? California decides to be California. California does California things. And again, as the title of the video suggests, because I spent all day, listen, okay, Fox News wasn't really covering too much of this as it was going, and CNN was covering a little bit here and there, but MSNBC was all about this. It was all like, blame Trump, blame Trump, blame Trump. And I listened to MSNBC for about 3 or 4 hours, which I don't really recommend listening to any news organization, mainstream media organization for that long because it's not really healthy for your head. It certainly wasn't for mine. But I listened and I listened and I listened and I said, oh, whoa, whoa, you know, there's a lot of things being said as facts, as news. You know, at one point they had Donald Trump up and they asked him right in front of before he's getting on the airplane, are you going to sign into effect the Insurrection Act? And he says, only if there's an insurrection, which is probably the best answer a president can give. Like, he's not going to say yes. He's not going to say no. He's going to say, I'll do it if there is actually a reason to do it. But then MSNBC comes right on after that, says Trump talking about signing the Insurrection Act. And I'm like, that's not what he said. But, you know, it's not like he's actually helping the situation, you know, in certain ways with his words. But then again, you know, he's the president and, you know, let's talk about this. Is he to blame for what's going on in California? The Democrats want you to know that he's to blame. He's not the commander-in-chief. They're calling him, now every Democratic representative, it's the talking points already. He's the commander in chaos. He's the commander in chaos or commander of chaos. They've got all the talking points. Kamala Harris, whatever her name is, came out and said Trump's to blame. Newsom came out all angry on MSNBC, real fiery, angry speech. It's all Trump. This is Trump's mess, and we're going to clean it up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So let's slow down. Let's not distort history, okay? That's only happened in the last few days because we can actually see it live on TV. How did all this crap start? Well, ICE, a federal agency, federal officers, executing the law. They're part of the executive branch. They're executing the law. They're going into California and making immigration raids and arresting people who have broken the law and then bringing them to ICE detention facilities to be processed. Okay. So far, that's what they did. We all knew this is what they were going to do. That's the law. It's like saying the police are stopping people from stealing. Okay. It's their job. That's what their job is as a federal agency of the executive branch. Well, Californians decided, mostly California, I think they're mostly California. I'm not really sure if they're all Californians or not. By the way, all these people I see, we're going to see this later on, they're all waving around Mexican flags. So if you're Mexican and you're an illegal, what you're saying is you abandoned your home country. Now you're in a country that you're saying sucks. So like, are you happy in either country? It's either or, okay? Make up your mind. What country do you like? What country do you want to be in? Which country do you want to live in? So they have this protest. They actually attack ICE officers. And I really want to know where in the logic of anything did anybody think to themselves, hey, that's a good idea. Does anybody think that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief of these federal agencies, is not going to be absolutely out of his mind if his people are being attacked? I expected this. So what did he do? He started, I'm going to send in the National Guard. And the governor says, you don't have a right. I haven't asked for the National Guard. No one's asked for the National Guard. The mayor comes out of LA, says it's all Trump's fault. Well, Trump wasn't there. Trump didn't light the fires. Trump didn't do the protests. Trump didn't attack ICE agents. He was in Washington, D.C. talking to Putin. So it's not his fault. He didn't start this, okay? Could we make a case that he might have made it worse? I guess it's the way you can look at it, eye of the beholder, right? But so he sends in a National Guard, and the governor comes out and he's going to file a lawsuit tomorrow, by the way. He came out and said he's going to file a lawsuit. Let me just get this up here. He says he's going to file a lawsuit against the president for abuse of power or usurping authority. Listen, folks, here's the deal with the National Guard, okay? And some of you are going to be like, yeah, and some of you are going to be like, why'd you have to dig that up? Okay. So Section 502 of basically federal law, basically is what the National Guard is all about. And it does say in that code that the National Guard cannot be used, federalized and used for law enforcement domestic activities, because that's against the Posse Comitatus Act, right? It's basically something that we always, adhere to as a country, except for when Posse Comitatus is suspended. And it's been suspended. Now, according to the news, you're going to see it's very rarely used. Actually, it's been used so many times. I lost counting how many times from Washington all the way up to George Bush the first. It's been used, okay? And I did a little bit more research on when it's been used after that. So the president has a wide authority here to federalize the National Guard if he wants to. Now, when he does that, he's supposed to get the governor, is supposed to acquiesce if he's going to send in a National Guard. Normally, this isn't normal because why? There's precedent. President Trump actually has a lot of precedent behind him for doing this. And I actually wrote down some notes. This was done. The second Bush administration did it in 2006, 2007, 2008 with Operation Jumpstart, sending federalized National Guard to Texas and Arizona. And then they weren't necessarily asked for at that time. Trump did it in 2018. Obama did it in 2010 with Operation Phalanx, sending federalized National Guard to the two different states along the border to enforce immigration. This was all to enforce immigration, by the way. Enforce immigration and curtail drug trafficking. And the latest one, besides this one, on 6/15/2023, the Biden administration, with authorization from Congress, a Democratic Congress, federalized National Guard troops and sent them to the southern border to enforce federal immigration laws. So many presidents have done this. Many presidents have done what Donald Trump did today by sending in 2,000 National Guardsmen. But to come out and say it's illegal, it's unconstitutional, it's this, it's that, it's not. There is precedent for this, especially when you read the president's authority. By the way, this is the one I just talked about, 6/15/2023. And this is a PDF right here. This is from the congress.gov. So this isn't like, some weird website. This is actually Congress's website. This document I'm actually reading was prepared by the Congressional Research Services for members of Congress. So they have it handy. All right. So there it is, black and white, when the Biden administration federalized National Guard troops in an effort to help enforce federal immigration law. Why? Because he was losing the election at that point in time. So he said, I got to do something, right? You had the Secretary of Defense come out and say, I'm sending troops. You had all that. Lloyd Austin, come out, I'm sending troops, which is the same thing that Secretary Hegseth said today. Yep, we're going to send 2,000 troops. Yep, okay. And I got 500 Marines waiting in case the president decides to sign the Insurrection Act. By the way, you really don't want him to get to that point because Marines, they have the saying, we don't lose. Marines don't lose. They don't know how to lose, okay? You send 500 Marines into the middle of Los Angeles and you got this hippie crowd control thing going on, they're gonna slaughter everybody. They're Marines. You don't. There's certain people in the world you don't screw with, and I've learned that U.S. Marines are some of those people. So whatever you got to do, California, to get your shit under control, I do it real quick in case the president decides to say, yeah, send these 500 Marines, because those 500 Marines are going to be real excited to get there. It's not going to be a pretty thing, right? They've been trained in crowd control and riot control, but they usually trained in crowd control and riot control for foreign countries, not domestic countries. So things will get real interesting. So anyways, this text here, authority to deploy the National Guard, right? It's been done many times. There he goes. Operation Jumpstart, Operation Phalanx, okay? And I'm reading through this portion right here, all right? Operation, for Katrina, for Rita, for disaster relief and things like that. So there's been plenty of times when the federal government the president has federalized National Guardsmen for different activities. Now, the thing is, in the statute, it says that it permits individual members to be called to active duty to perform training or, quote, or other duties in addition to the mandatory training described earlier in Section 502. The problem is that whole or other duty is at the pure discretion of the President of the United States. Whether you like that or don't like that, disagree with it, that's just the law. And that's where Governor Newsom really doesn't have a thing to stand on. The president can say, they're attacking federal officers. They're not allowing federal immigration law to be enforced. Therefore, they are in violation, or they are basically an obstruction. So therefore, it falls under this act that was signed into law by a Democratic Congress and then signed into law by, excuse me for a second, gotta turn on the light. My battery was dying, so I had to turn it off. Signed into law by Democratic Congress and signed into law by President Biden, who happened to be a Democratic president. So the fact that you have all the news organizations saying that he's in a constitutional crisis, he's bullying this, he's doing that, he's doing all this, stuff that's illegal. It's not illegal. It's right there. You did it last year or 2 years ago. So is Donald Trump to blame? No, he's not to blame. He's not to blame. So, is he making things better right now? Probably not. I mean, he's not really talking to the governor, which at some point in time, he's got to talk to the governor. Of course, the governor not making things any better by coming out and saying that Donald Trump is an authoritarian dictator. Well, that's what happens. The pendulum swings, right? If California is going to be in anarchy and no government whatsoever, free for all, violence, lighting things on fire, attacking police officers and federal officers, the pendulum swings the other way to correct it. And sooner or later, we'll find balance. That's what happens. But you can't look at over here and go, they're an authoritarian dictator, and then be like, over here, you're holding in your hand anarchy. It just can't happen, right? So does Donald Trump have the authority to do what he does? Yeah, he does, because other presidents have done it. And it's been authorized by Congress. So there's statutory regulations, there's statutory precedent. So if this goes to a court, of course, it'll go to a California court, which will rule against Donald Trump, and blah, 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 blah. It'll get to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will be like, why are you here? You knew how we were going to rule on this. So anyways, then we can talk about the Insurrection Act. So what the hell is the Insurrection Act? Well, it's kind of like a bunch of different laws cobbled together. They're saying it's the Insurrection Act of 1807. It's not the Insurrection Act of 1807. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is really a conglomerate of other laws, previous and post, okay? But basically, this is the kind of thing that would give the president huge sweeping powers, all right? You really, I don't want him to sign this. He signs this, we're in trouble. We all in trouble, okay? Everybody's in trouble. Because I'm not saying I don't trust him, but I'm saying there's going to be a lot of violence. Because when you sign the Insurrection Act, it's not like I'm signing the Insurrection Act just for Los Angeles. It doesn't work that way. The Insurrection Act is the country or not. It covers the United States or it doesn't. All right? You sign into law, it's the Insurrection Act for everywhere. And maybe some of you are like, well, yeah, maybe we kind of need that. You really don't, okay? The Insurrection Act basically gives Donald Trump the power to send the military into the United States to, if he wants martial law in certain places, if he wants to enforce laws, whatever it might be. There is no limit. There really is very, very, very minute limitations on what the insurrection law says the president cannot do or interpret it for. The president can interpret it for any reason. He can just say, yeah, I think there's an insurrection, so I'm going to sign this into law. There's no mechanism for him he doesn't have to prove it in court of law. He doesn't have to prove it to Congress, right? The only thing that can happen before this happens is that Congress comes in and says, we're going to change the Insurrection Act. We're going to alter it, make it a little bit more difficult. But Congress is not going to do that right now. Why? It's a Republican Congress. So they're not going to do that for. So if the president signs this or he declares it so, ain't going to be good for none of you. None of you who like this whole rioting thing, protesting thing. And by the way, these are not peaceful protests, okay? I'm sorry. When things are on fire like this, this is not a peaceful protest, okay? Lighting cars on fire, all that. By the way, then they come back here. They get some poor reporter, like just deer in the headlights, and she's in front of the police who are standing there all nice and okay, not doing anything bad, all right? But what they're not showing is stuff like you can get on other news channels. Like if I could get the feed from like Mexico, because Mexico shows the stuff that American channels won't show. But I can't get that on my computer right now because I don't want that stuff on my computer. Anyways, but this is not a peaceful protest. You just saw a guy on top of a flaming car. This is not peaceful. There it is again, peaceful protest, right? And of course, I heard that again. I heard that before in 2020. It's a peaceful protest. All right. By the way, peaceful protest doesn't mean you get to block traffic. Peaceful protest doesn't mean you get to throw things at people. Peaceful protest doesn't mean you get to light things on fire. Peaceful protest don't mean you get to destroy property that isn't yours. That's not a peaceful protest. That's called a riot. Some people would call it terrorism, using fear, violence, and intimidation to advance a political agenda. That's the definition of terrorism. So I don't know. You guys can all make, again, it's a degree. It's the eye of the beholder. For me, I just call it not a peaceful protest. I call it a riot. I'm not yet there to call it terrorism, but it is what it is. All right. And yeah, there's the peaceful protest as things are lit on fire. I'm sure whoever's car that is, I'm sure they're thinking to themselves, it's a peaceful protest, so it's okay. They're saying to themselves, shit, my car is gone. All right. But it's okay. They have insurance, right? Or, well, there it is. Oh. By the way, there's the person. Yes, the Mexican flag. Okay, I love Mexico. I live here. I live in Mexico. I love Mexico. I'm married to him. I made extra Mexicans. It's like, maybe, you know what? Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm the problem. I made extra Mexicans. Anyways, I love my Mexican family. I love them. I love living here. I love this country. I do. I love my other country. I love my home country. But here's the thing. I'm not going to come to Mexico and get pissed off about something Mexico did and start waving a United States flag around. I left the United States. It's like I didn't abandon it. I love it. I just happen to be here right now. But I just don't get that process, that thought, that logic. That, you know what? I'm going to leave the country that is not giving me what I want, go to a country that's giving me everything that I do want, but still shit all over it. So I see the Mexican flag there and I'm just thinking, well, I'm probably thinking what most Mexican citizens who live in Mexico who are just like normal, like, and I talk to them every day and I talk to a bunch, over the weekend. And they're like, that's not us. Please don't think that's us. That's not us. There's a great divide in Mexico between Mexican citizens who just don't want to be looked upon as troublemakers and people who trash other countries, and then these that trash other countries and are troublemakers. So, yeah. But there you go. Peaceful protest. Lots of smoke. I guess maybe there's lots of smoke. I mean, it is lots. Yeah, it's good smoke. But CNN, MSNBC, these are peaceful protests, and they're blaming Donald Trump. If you listen to it, it's all Donald Trump's fault. This wouldn't have gotten out of hand 3 days ago. This has been going on for 3 days. 3 days this has been going on. Okay? Now, listen, I'm a former Democrat, so I do have some sympathy for Democrats. But as far as Democratic representation goes, Mayor Bass of LA and Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, they have no credibility with me after the wildfires. They haven't built that back up because we caught them lying about a bunch of stuff, or even not caring about what was going on, or not reacting to, or not doing the right things as they should have been doing. We all saw the California wildfires. So do they have any credibility with me when they come out and they're all with this consternation and blaming people who don't even live in the state and had nothing to do with it and were just trying to actually do the job that they were? First of all, Donald Trump was elected by the country by a great majority. He was a landslide. We could talk about it, 70 million votes, popular vote, electoral college, all 7 swing states, blah, 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 blah. He had a mandate to do what he's doing. He's doing what he was elected to do. Some people still may not like it and they want to resist. That's fine. We can resist. You can resist all you want, but just do it through the processes of what we have and the mechanisms that we have to resist properly. The court system, go through the courts, go through your elected representatives, vote, get out there and have a political campaign. Try to win the hearts and minds of the people to say no. This is wrong. I see this and I'm thinking to myself, oh, voting for Trump was probably the right thing to do. Because these people are crazy. Like, I don't want to be like, again, why I left the Democratic Party, things like this. I don't want to be associated with that. I just don't. I can't. I don't want to be. So yeah, there it is. Your peaceful protest. So I'm just, the cop cars driving through and it's getting to be night. Oh, here we go. Donald Trump, Truth Social. A once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. All right. He's not wrong. Now violent insurrectionist mobs, now he used the word insurrectionist there, are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations. The definition of an insurrection is to obstruct the government from functioning properly. You know how I know that? The Democrats told me that a million times after January 6th. So if you have violent mobs attacking federal officers or federal agents, stopping them from executing the will of the government and the people in which elected that government. Yeah, I guess if the shoe fits, wear it. Okay. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I am directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies, to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion. And put that, now he used that word invasion. He purposely used that word invasion because that's one of the caveats of getting the insurrection. So I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to sign it, right? Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okie dokie. Yeah. So there you go. That was his True Social among many True Social posts. The Department of Defense has just announced that nearly 500 active duty Marines are now preparing to deploy to the city of Los Angeles as riots intensify. I'm telling you right now, get this under control before those Marines land. Just get it under control before these Marines land. Oh, there's Gavin Newsom in Sacramento or Los Angeles, wherever he is. Nice, comfy room, talking to law enforcement. And then after this, he gave an interview to MSNBC. And you can go ahead and watch it if you want. You can find it, where he talks about all sorts of stuff. Talks about, Tom Holman's a tough guy, so he's going to come arrest me. He says we're ripping 4-year-old girls out of school. I'm like, okay, well, were they illegal? Doesn't answer that question, right? Says he's filing a lawsuit. Okay, man, I get it. Your state is just not doing well. Like, I get your frustration. Your state is not doing well. It's not doing well. It hasn't been doing well since last year. The fires and everything like that. It's not doing well. I get it. Here's the protest. Again, peaceful protest. You don't get to block traffic because eventually there's going to be an ambulance or something that needs to use that path. I'm not going to tell you what that says. All right. Oh, more protests down the highway because, no one needs to use highways. Oh, more burning cars. Oh, what do we got here? Office of the Governor. He wrote a letter. The governor wrote a strongly worded letter. The president may call into federal service members and units of the National Guard of any state in such numbers as he considers necessary to, 1, repel an invasion of the United States by a foreign nation. Well, he already mentioned that these illegals are the invasion. And 2, suppress a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. Well, when you stop federal agents from executing federal law, that's a rebellion. And again, I'm kind of poking the stick here. I'm kind of poking the bear here. And again, I mean, it's extreme, but then again, you can make it work in a court of law. Execute the laws of the United States and the president is unable to do so with regular forces. Well, he can't if there's riots attacking his people. So thank you, Office of Governor, for making the case for us. Section 12406 further states that orders for these purposes shall be issued to the governors of the state. Yeah, issued through the governors. And if you're refusing to issue those orders, they go around you. Yeah, it is what it is, folks. It is what it is. And This is going to be another legal battle, and a lot of people saying this is all misdirection. Trump is trying to get you to forget about the big, beautiful bill. No, he's not. He's going to pass that. That thing's going to pass, okay? It's going to pass. People are saying he's trying to get you to forget about Elon Musk. No, he's not. He could care less about him. Elon Musk doesn't mean much to him right now. He's got 3 wars and what he's calling an insurrection going on, or a rebellion going on in Los Angeles. Oh, more burning cars. Oh, here we go.
Face federal charges if they stand in the way of the deportation. Something that Holman may have suggested.
If officials stand in the way of law and order, yeah, they will face charges. Thank you very much.
Yep, they will face. Yep, it was Marco Rubio. And in that same interview that they don't show you in that clip is when he said, "No, I'm not. I'll sign it. Are you going to sign the Insurrection Act?" He goes, "Only if there's an insurrection." Oh, Kamala Harris, my statement on what's unfolding in Los Angeles. No one cares. No one cares. No one cares about that. They really don't. Let's see. What's the latest? What do we got? We got lots of swearing. So apologize for all it's Twitter. What can you do? It's Twitter. But I bet Elon's just stopped. He's like, no more of this stuff. No more of this stuff. So that's what's going on. Oh, so then the police chief here. This is the Los Angeles police chief. I can't play this because I don't want to get copyrighted, but this is the LA police chief, and he came out and basically like, our officers are getting attacked. He goes, we can't do anything if we stop our officers from getting attacked. So the LA police chief is coming out and being like, what do you want us to do? They're attacking us. We have to do what we can do. He goes, we do not have the situation in control. He said, we're working on it. He goes, we're afraid of the night because when the night comes, that's when it's going to get worse. And it's pretty much night there now. So I'm not even sure they have anything going on here. I don't want to sign in. Oh, Kamala, zero tolerance. Zero tolerance. Yeah, sure. Sovereignty showdown. You're going to lose that one. So I guess, did he get booed? Maybe he got booed. I don't know. So that is what's going on in California. Can't we all just get along? We really don't want this. We don't need this, do we? Do we need this? Oh, I tell you. Like I said, it was just a beautiful weekend down here in Mexico. Everything was going well. And then Mexico blew up all over California. I'm telling you. Again, if you're a federal agent and you're not being allowed to do your job, that's not a protest. That's called obstruction of justice. You can disagree with the law all you want, but you got to, we have a process in the United States, and that's why it's a good thing to become a citizen, because you have to learn the laws. That if you don't like the law, like, okay, again, I use the example here. There's laws down here in Mexico I don't agree with. What am I gonna do? Go start lighting cars on fire because I don't like the law? No, it's stupid, right? You become if I really, 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 really want to do something, I'd become a Mexican citizen, and then I'd try to influence politics somehow in a proper way to get the laws changed. But again, that's how you do things, but not like this. Not like this. This is ridiculous. This is the fault of, of a sanctuary state, a sanctuary city within a sanctuary state, allowing people to believe that it's okay to act this way. Rioters are coddled. There's been 10 arrests today, according to the LA police chief. They asked him, how many of you arrested? He goes, 10. 10 people. That's it. There were about 20 arrests yesterday. So 3 days, you've got 30 arrests. I watching those videos, I can see way more than 30 individuals worth of criminality going on. So they have their work cut out. And I bet they have orders not to arrest that much. I'm betting you I bet their orders are try to make this as peaceful and as quiet as possible. I bet MSNBC, CNN, they're not going to show you what's really going on. Why? Because they don't want to they're calling it, don't play into Trump's hands. What do you mean? I don't get that. Either Trump's hands are he wants to arrest illegal immigrants and deport them. So you're either going to allow him to do that, which plays into his hands, or you're not going to allow him to do that, which plays into his hands, because now he gets to exercise authority that presidents haven't exercised since George W. Bush exercised it on 2001, the Insurrection Act. Before that, Clinton had exercised it a few times. And before that, there was dozens and dozens of times presidents have invoked the Insurrection Act. It's not a rarely used tool. More rare in the last, I'd say, 25 years, sure. But it's not but don't believe it when they say it's a rarely used tool, folks. It's been used many, many, many times. In fact, I wonder if I still have that page up. If you will indulge me for a moment. Indulge me for a moment. Here we go. Let's see here. National Guard. Let's see here. Let's show my history here. I knew I had it up here. Oh, that's not it. Nope. President Trump. Burned out car. Austin Powers. Insurrection Act. Yeah, that would be it. That would be it. That's what I was looking at. The Insurrection Act explained. How many times used? 30 times. All right, George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson again, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, Ulysses S. Grant. Oh, Ulysses S. Grant again and again, him again and him again. Rutherford B. Hayes. You know what? Let me let you see this so you can see what I'm looking at. This is a list of the times in which the Insurrection Act was used. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Jackson, Lincoln, Grant. Man, he really liked that. Rutherford B. Hayes twice. Chester A. Arthur. Grover Cleveland. Woodrow Wilson 13 more times. Woodrow Wilson. So we're in the 20th century. Warren G. Harding. Herbert Hoover. FDR. Dwight. John F. Kennedy. Lyndon Johnson. Again and again. Ronald Reagan. George H.W. Bush. All right. And this isn't even a complete list because I know for a fact that it was used during the 2001 attacks. So it's been used bunches and bunches and bunches of times. So there's plenty of authority for him to use it, plenty of precedent. But again, you don't want him to use that. You don't want it to get to that point because that means the shit is hit the fan. So, but with that, that's my quick take on what's going on. I'm going to go back to, I was working on a comic book video, Galactus, having fun, playing some video games, relaxing Sunday night. Well, I'm going to go back to watching the news because it's entertaining to watch this because, I don't know, I might be back a little bit later if shit gets real. But I think it's going to slow down. But with that, I am still your reluctant gringo. If you got any questions about what it's like living south of the border and what it's like looking at the news south of the border, let me know. Let me know whether you agree or disagree. It's all good stuff. But anyways, with that, I'm your reluctant gringo. I'm out of here. Thanks for checking in real quick. This little special session south of the border. Salut. Away, everybody. Bye-bye.